Welcome everyone to our laundry room today. If you're available to turn on your camera, we would love to see your faces. If you're not, we understand. If you want to contribute to the conversation, chime in, ask questions, please feel free to unmute yourself. And then if you can't, you can type it in the chat and we'll monitor that as well. Doug, it's all yours, buddy.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for choosing to be here. Obviously, many of you guys know how laundry rooms work. This is the time and place for us to brainstorm together the challenges, the ideas, the things that work and don't work in our industry. The hope is always that when we're done, we're either inspired for an idea or we have an idea too that we can take back to our businesses and do a Dr. Frankenstein. No, who's Frankenstein's doctor? No, Frankenstein is the monster. I don't know the details there. No judging, Lena. I can see you're judging me. So anyway, we take that idea back to our business and see if we can have an impact, something that will make it better for our employees and our wallets and our companies. So that's the hope. And I thought a great topic to talk about would be scheduling and dispatching. And I will tell you that I am selfishly facilitating this session and hoping that you all will give me 2 or 3 great ideas to take back to Action Appliance because I need your help. All right. So the way I was thinking about this lately was a hypothetical situation. And remember, it's hypothetical, so don't judge me. But look at it like this. This is what I was thinking about the other day. I didn't think about it too much farther past a couple minutes, so don't. There may be flaws in this idea, but imagine you are a business with 6 technicians and you are a COD business, okay? And you are currently trying to make money, be profitable, also balance that work, try to juggle that work-life balance for your technicians, right? Dean and I think Mark, we've been in this business a really long time. Mindsets and what people were willing to do and want to do has changed. We know that. We talk about that a lot. So we're juggling all of that. Let's imagine for a moment this COD company with 6 technicians, if they were able to hypothetically pull it off and do 1 extra call a day. So for each technician. So that's 6 techs, 6 calls. Let's say the average call of your tickets are $300, right? So that's like what I wrote it down, like $900. No, $1,800 times 5 days. That's $9,000 times 4 weeks. That's $36,000. That's hypothetical, right? There's long jobs, there's people calling out sick, scheduled days off, things like that. And when I start talking these numbers, I want you to know where my heart is always at. It's at taking care of our customers. And I think that we all want that too. We want to be there when they need us. And we want to make sure that our technicians are on their A game, doing the best they can to make their day better. Now, if we focus on those things, being efficient and getting to them as quick as possible, the money will always follow. But the money is kind of fun to play around with. So at $36,000 extra that month, because somehow we were able to get our technicians to do 1 extra call a day, even if the reality was, what did I write down? Maybe 40% success rate on that. Now we're talking about almost $15,000 a month, which, at the end of the year is another $172,000 a month. Again, look at it from that kind of revenue change in your P&L. But again, think about the extra customers and the repeat customers that call you that don't have to wait 3, 4, and 5 days or cancel on you. So that's where my brain is at. As a COD business myself, what the makeup is for us in dispatching and scheduling, and I want you guys to add your extra things as I do it. So this is what I'm thinking. For structure, I think about our max call count that's possible for our technicians. Some of them do more, some of them do less. I think about the desire for same day, next day service. That's what we focus on as a COD company. Trying to manage part installs as well as repeat customers. We don't want them to wait in the summertime a few days. Trying to manage that as well as the cancellation rate. And we've been talking about that on some of these Zooms lately. Knowing your cancellation rate and that when it starts to get into the double digits, you're spending a lot of money to make the phone ring, to get them on your schedule, to lose them 2 days later or 3 days later from someone else. So all those things we're trying to juggle here, as well as work-life balance. Are there other factors or factors or mindsets that you guys add to your scheduling? Maybe some of you who do warranty work, do you look at it a little differently? Are there other things you're trying to juggle in making the perfect schedule each day?
At this time of year, since we're a little slower, our our routes are actually less optimal than during the busy times, because we're just trying to fill techs days, and then so if the route's a little bit messed up, it's a little bit messed up, and we tell our techs that because they complain about if they have drive an extra 10 miles a day, so
Or gap in the schedule. Yeah. So there are other balls that we throw in and juggle through the slow season, like some sort of email campaign for maintenance specials and inspections and things like that. Maybe we'll start to do appliances that we typically don't do, like, whatever, gas grills, things like that. But how about in the busy season, Mark? Is there anything that I didn't mention that your dispatcher and call taking team are trying to manage, besides losing the customer through cancellation rate, trying to fill that maximum schedule, same day, next day? Like, what are other things that you guys are focused on that maybe I'm missing out on here at Action? It's cool if I covered it all. That would make me and I'm glad. That's what I want to hear. So you're making me feel good. So
I'll add one more. Refrigeration takes priority.
There you go. That doesn't here, but that's what you try to achieve at your place, right, Maxine?
Yeah. You
Yeah.
get a refrigeration failure call. Doesn't matter what you scheduled for the morning. You're going on the refrigeration call first.
Sure. Okay. All right. So you might even move your schedule around, is what you're saying, Maxine, to try to get that refrigerator in sooner.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, cool. Anything else?
What are you doing if you have a booked out day tomorrow, but today you're a little light? How are you going in and looking at those calls for tomorrow and moving them into today, even if, to Mark, your point, that it makes your day today far less efficient? And you mentioned 10 miles. What if it's 20 miles?
Mhm.
What if it's one call, but it adds an hour and a half's time?
Great question, Dean. What do you guys think?
we'll usually go on, Maxine.
I see Michael.
No, I said we do it. That isn't usually our problem. It's usually the reverse problem of everybody wants today and can't wait until tomorrow, even though it's the knob on their stove that they don't use that burner, but we won't go there.
So you'll prioritize. Okay.
Yeah, our system allows us to, when we talk to customers, it allows us to mark them for another day. So like if we're talking to somebody and they're like, oh, I really want today, it allows us to put them on a cancellation list. So then we can say who wanted a cancellation list today. And it will show us where that job is. I'm not going to send a tech an hour and a half in their day. It just doesn't make sense. We do a little bit of warranty work as well. So when we're dealing with CODs, because you talk about you spend the money to make that phone ring, I tell my office, I say CODs are either booked today or they're booked tomorrow. Yes. And they don't go out any longer than that. If I have to call, if a tech is already full, you add it. And if there's a warranty customer on there, I'm just going to call them and push them to the next day. I know it's maybe not the best thing to do, but when you think of COD customers 3 times more profitable, maybe sometimes even more than American Home Shield or Older Republic person. So
all right, so let me grill you a couple questions here, Michael, because I like where you're going with this. And by the way, when you said today or tomorrow, you said it with a confidence like you've said it 200 million times to your
Mhm.
team. And I love that. That means that they know what your why is and what your what is. And they in your stay, they'll try to achieve that. And I think you had to say that 200 million times for them to know how important that is to you, right? And I like that. Now you're talking about the tricky parts about qualifying different customers at different levels of importance. It's you and um uh where'd you go? Oh man.
Maxine.
Maxine.
Yeah, Maxine. You guys are prioritizing it. There you are, Maxine. Yeah, that's a challenge, isn't it? Hate to justify situations, but so how do you process that, Michael? What do you do for the customers that you're bumping? Do you do anything for them?
Um, no, they're warranty customers. I mean, I hate to say it, but when you pay out of your pocket and give us cash, it's king, and they're a lot more profitable. We pride ourselves on getting great reviews. We have a lot of reviews. It's one thing. It's how we all build our business. It's the number one thing. So you have to find that fine line so you don't piss them off. And if we can stick that call on somebody else's route, we'll try. But yeah, if we're going to bump a customer, that the only customer that gets bumped is going to be a warranty customer.
So who's your customer escalation guru? When you have to make these difficult decisions, customers aren't going to go, all right, thank you so much. Yeah, I understand. Who handles that in your office, and what kind of pain point or challenge is that? I mean, how many of those customers you have to
You
deal
know
with?
what? Usually you just call them and say, hey, we had an issue with the challenge with the schedule. I'm really sorry. We have to move you to the next day. But usually, like, we're staying a day ahead of it, right? So we're not calling them an hour before the time we're supposed to be there. That doesn't happen. You have to be to that customer. It doesn't matter if they're the warranty customer. But I think if you stay a day ahead of it, customers are pretty, and you got to look at what issue you're going out to. Like Maxine said, if it's a refrigerator that's not cooling, that's going to be a pissed off customer, right? That's a big deal, especially in Phoenix, right? I guess anywhere, it doesn't matter. But when you get to this time of year, it reaches 100 degrees. Every compressor that's going to go out is going out. But to answer your question, it's my office manager if it needs to go to that level.
Yeah.
And then ultimately it's me, but I don't ever field those calls. I mean, they never get to me. I think customers are pretty understanding,
It's a real part of our business every day. When we make a promise and we break it, we have to do our best to hopefully let they accept our issues and our problems on our side and continue to be happy. So anyone else want to respond or talk about that aspect of making a schedule a change to your schedule and how it affects your customers?
Yeah, I want to offer this, Doug. So if you're doing warranty calls, and Michael, I think it was you, might have been Mark, you're going to make a lot more money on the COD calls than you do on the warranty calls. The goal in doing the warranty is not just to fill slots, is to capture them post warranty, right? So that's part of the effort. When you reschedule a warranty call, are you not, in fact, and I'm hedging my bet here and I'm leaning towards suggesting that you are you not, I think you are, hurting the possibility of capturing that customer on the COD because they don't see, Doug, to your point that you're driving home, they don't see the consistency in your efforts to serve them in the time frame that you've identified. You're postponing it. And so I think it hurts your efforts to capture that warranty call into the COD.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I do think American Home Shield, those types of home warranty customers, I think a high percentage of them stay with warranty companies throughout their, their life of owning a home. Obviously that's not the case for all. I think when we do a little bit of GE 1-year warranty, I think those are the reason why we do some of that work, is to your point, is to capture COD business from that. Because those customers don't have a home warranty. They just have that warranty that came with the appliance. But yeah, I mean, that's a real thing. So
there is no right answer, and we will not
No.
make 100% of our customers happy every day.
Well, I agree with the American Home Shield thing. If you're the best servicer they ever had, they don't correlate you to it. They correlate American Home Shield's the greatest. So they're going to
Yep.
renew with American Home Shield. They're one of the hardest customers to
Mhm.
capture post warranty, because if they love you, they love American Home Shield, they stay with American Home Shield. In fact, if you go through your reviews on American Home Shield and they loved you, it's 5 stars. They say AHS has the greatest, technician base, things like that. They don't disassociate you from them. With exception, there's a few that, like, I hate American Home Shield, but you guys are phenomenal. I'm not renewing. Give me your information. You guys are the guys. So, I mean, if you do if we have to bump somebody, it's an American Home Shield customer. Outside of that, like Dean said, yeah, I mean, for sure, any actual in warranty, GEs, whatever, you're there to sell your service beyond that 1 year. That way they call you.
Yeah. Anyone who's just joining, we're talking about scheduling, dispatch, making the most efficient schedules we can, and trying to make the best of a situation that will never be perfect. Earlier, we talked about cancellations and cancellation lists. Somebody in the chat was asking how you track that. I can tell you from Service Desk's perspective, if you're a Service Desk user, put your email in the chat and I will send you the process that we've figured out through their help, how to run a cancellation report. We were in a peer group with Dean and other smart guys for a bunch of years, and we focused on cancellation reports for a long time. And I'll tell you, the data that I've kind of gotten down to is single digits is going to be is acceptable and typical, right? 6 to 8%. Slow season, that's what it should be. When I have a double digit in the slow season, it's usually because a technician is out sick and I've got no one for that area. That's an anomaly. When the summertime comes, I've seen our cancellation rate go as high as the high 20s, even sometimes in the 30s. And that's especially during COVID. And it feels like COVID has been the last 10 years. But, I feel like in the busy season, if I can get it to 12 to 15%, then that means I probably have the right amount of staff, technicians to handle the situation. And by the way, cancellations, there are all kinds of reasons. Now, in Service Desk at one time, the reason that would be put in by the CSR was visible. And all I would do is I would see bought new, started working fine, husband called another company, a lot of sporadic ones, but found someone sooner, found someone sooner, found someone sooner. That's the something that we can do something about. And that would mean turning down advertising so that we're not booking farther out, bringing a technician into that area. That's weird. We like to send the same tech back always, or 80% of the time, to put their own parts in. But when your cancellation rate is in the 30s and the high 20s and you're booked out 4 or 5 days, you have to believe me when I tell you they are probably booking with you, but they're checking around. And if they can find someone sooner, I have seen longtime customers just not book with us. And then a year later call and go, I had to go to the dark side and use someone else. I could not wait. An earlier comment was mentioned about refrigerators being a priority. As an old man, you know what I found out? The customer's appliance, whatever it is, if that's a priority to them, an ice machine, an ice maker, a dryer, kids are coming home from college tomorrow, I need that washer up and running today. Any appliance can be a priority. So that's my thought on cancellations. I see a whole bunch of emails. So someone start talking so that I can copy and paste all these emails down. All right.
I'll start talking and
Thank you.
say, so since I was the one who mouthed off about refrigeration, it's also, okay. So for those who don't know us, we're basically a one-person business. It's Michael, and Michael's son, Joe, part-time. So it makes it very easy to centralize who's making the decisions. It's Michael or me, and usually it's Michael. Having said that, there's been sort of no mention in the laundry rooms that I've been in so far of what I knew as the 80-20 rule, which is 80% of your business comes from 20% of your best customers. And so that's another variable just to throw in and confuse things. Because of that, at least with us, we tend to know our customers and we talk to our customers. And if, like you say, our customer says, oh, I need that washing machine because my kid's coming home from college tomorrow, or I'm leaving for vacation tomorrow, or some other critical reason why they need to get pushed up in the list, we can usually accommodate them. Having said that, if it's not that kind of situation and we need to bump somebody, first of all, we don't make promises that like we're definitely getting to you. You know, we say, you know, Tuesday afternoon we'll call you, because we never know how long the call before you is going to be. Most customers, most reasonable customers, shall I say, are perfectly content with, we're really sorry, we had a refrigeration failure for one of our customers. I'm sure that if it was your refrigerator, you'd be happy that we bumped your dryer. And most of them are pretty reasonable.
Okay, that's good. But you're from the Massachusetts, Boston area, so you guys are even grittier than we are in Connecticut. So if they're willing, that's interesting to find out. I do have a little PTSD from.
I think a big part is training your technicians or letting them know, hey, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying, so we might overbook you, you know, so that they're aware they might get an extra job. We might put an extra job on for you today. If they're on board, then you don't have to bump another customer. You know, okay, they'll do their best to try to get it, or you can send another tech over there, or in my case, I'll run out and do a job, extra job. But getting your technicians on board, because if they're like, I want to get home at 3 o'clock, don't add any more jobs, you can't, you know, then you're gonna have.
Great transition, Mark, because initially we're talking about being efficient and doing our best to schedule properly, mileage, travel time, area. Again, our company desires to send the same tech back. That means, you know, so we have those parameters for excellence in scheduling. Now we're trying to schedule out of opportunity and to go to take it to the next level and to add to that. So Mark, the why is important, right? If they know about the cancellation rate and they know how expensive it is to make your phone ring and that how important it is to take care of that customer that's been with us for 10 years, the why is important. Do you have any other incentives or punishments, or do you have like a shock collar if they say no? Like, what do you do to inspire your tech to step up?
If we will put, not in the slow times, we'll just add people, but when we're really busy, we'll charge a emergency fee, and then I give most of that emergency fee to the technician, so they get the the little bonus, and we get a happy customer. And yeah.
Anyone else doing that? Anyone else offering incentives for on-call emergency service?
We don't do on-call, but we do give like an incentive if they take an add-on.
What's that look like?
$10
Nice.
per add-on that they. But some techs just aren't very motivated by money incentives either, so they just would rather go home between 2 and 3 o'clock. So that's become a challenge.
How do you guys? How do you account for that in their commission? It does. I mean, we use CDA. I like where you're going with that. I just trying to do the accounting for it seems.
Yeah, we use service desk. And it's probably not the most efficient, but my office manager just keeps track. They put attention note in the job, emergency call. Then we charge $50. The tech gets 35 of the 50. And she just keeps tally of it. And then when she does payroll, adds it to the extra
So just
35.
like pretty basic pen and paper kind of thing.
Pretty much a little spreadsheet on her computer, but basically pen and paper.
Yeah.
Well, if you're a service desk user, we use spiffs, right? They have that in the system. You know, for us, we used to do on calls years ago, and it would be like $100 more than this. We would just double the service fee or something like that. Customers after a while, and then we got in this bad habit many years ago of asking the tech, "Hey, would you be willing to take an add-on?" "Yeah, sure." "For where?" "For $300. And it's like a bidding war. And then the CSR is getting on the phone with the customer going, "Absolutely, we can get someone out there for $3,500. Is that really on-call service when you're offering rates that high? Who the hell says yes to that?" And then they hung up, and I just discontinued on call. But a few years, 2 or 3 years ago during the pandemic, I thought there's got to be somewhere in the middle. I've got to kind of come up with something. So priority service, I got bold and brave. I don't know about you guys. Show of hands with people with cameras on. How many of you have call counts? Like you've told your technicians, this is how many calls I'm going to give you in a day. And how many of you just give when you need to give them and you add more when you need to add more? Is there anybody that does that? You can't do both, Dean. You can't give a promise of 8 calls and then give them 10, can you? How you
No,
pulling that
we
off?
don't. We do promise that we won't give them more than 8 without getting their permission.
Okay.
But we are commissioned. So I think salaried or hourly people have a different scenario to follow, because I think a lot of those employees want the hours. So it's more flexible. And you can also incentivize people by the call volume that you take, right? So if you're doing commission, you can do commission and call volume. There's all kinds of ways to incentivize people. And Mark, I like what you said about adding the money. If you've got a $50 surcharge for an overtime, if we were ever doing that, we would just simply use the same rate of pay that they would get on the commission basis for whatever surcharge is there. So it's not a hard thing for the office to determine what the deal is. They'll see it's an overtime call because they'll see the add-on charge, but the technician's going to get the same benefit of his regular commission rate. It just applies to the added monies.
So it was 2018. It was pretty busy for us. We were understaffed, and I just thought, let's just turn this thing up. Let's just get all our customers taken care of. Our technicians are commissioned. They're going to make a ton of money. This is a great opportunity this year. And it was a crazy, amazing, best year ever. Dean Landers was actually in the building, and we were really cheap on the expense side. I didn't have an office manager. I didn't have a part. I was like all of the hats. So we were cheap on the expense side, and just incredibly profitable year. And I started noticing technicians fraying and falling apart, and they would just give excuses for not doing their paperwork properly, or realizing that's a truck stock part and getting it done in one trip, or being a little rough or with a customer, and they just kept saying, you're booking too many calls, you're working me too hard. And I decided, let's do this. Let's do call counts. I go to ASTI every year. There is a call count with a lot of companies, and that call count keeps dropping. I better jump on board before it's down to like 3 calls a day and everyone's done by noon. That's what I'm feeling like we're heading towards. But I instituted it. And I'm going to tell you, from 2018 to 2019, the QuickBooks spoke loudly of the drop in revenue. And here was the hope, though. I was okay with that because I want to inspire quality and excellence. The owner of Action, his name is Jay. I want the employees to channel Jay and just be that amazing customer service guy. And the reality is the only way that's going to happen is if you're coaching them alongside them with their call counts. You can't assume that commission will do it, because commission alone won't do it for everybody. So we weren't coaching well, but we had call counts. and we were doing less calls. So we're finally in the groove. There's 2 of us as service managers trying to coach and remind them we give you call counts because we want you to be excellent on every single job. So now the trick is how do we add extra calls and have them buy into it? You guys have technicians buying into those add-ons?
Yeah,
Mark,
I think
are they happy with the add-ons? How do you make them happy about staying out till 5:30 and making an extra $150?
I was just going to speak to, recalls kill commission, right? So that's an important part of, hey, you can give somebody 10 calls. And to your point, when you start looking at revenue, man, I'll tell you what, you get to you got it. Every tech is different. Some techs will take 10 calls and they do a great job. Some do great with 8. Some do great with 7. And if you move those techs that do great with 7 or 8 and bump them up, all of a sudden they're making less money because they're rushing through their day and their recalls go through the roof. So you have to be super mindful of what else that causes,
Yeah.
because, hey, we pay commission. Hey, we can give you more calls. Ultimately, that tech's not going to make any more money. He's probably going to make less money because now 2 of his calls are recalls in a day instead of being, paying.
And Michael, you look like you've lived a few years. You know that potentially it's likely they're first going to blame you for the problems with the recalls and not making money. And then you kind of got to talk them through it and help them see it, right? Or is that just here at Action? You don't have that problem?
Yeah,
where
does
they
any
kind of
tech
blame the
take
world?
responsibility for the recalls? And some of them is just some are actually not really recalls. It's how you handle the customer in the home.
Mhm.
I see some of those too, but I think it's important. Techs are very fragile people.
Yeah, they need coaching. I mean, Dean's semi-retired now. Wouldn't it be cool if he just called all our technicians every day and gave them a word of encouragement and maybe evaluated their numbers and gave them a little SMART goal to work on? Could you do that for us all, Dean?
That's a service I'd pay for.
Highly unlikely.
What's that? Maybe there's, I don't know, 600 techs in the room, under these companies here.
Here's a question though I ask Doug, I wrote down, you mentioned in your opening about work-life balance.
Mhm.
And as I am now semi-retired, work-life balance is critically important to me. Well, if it's important to me, it's important to other people. And I have adult grandchildren that are out of college and they're working and they are changing jobs because the companies are squeezing life out of them for their work-life balance. So age dependent, I think boomers like me are comfortable with working longer hours, even as our physical capabilities diminish. Younger people don't want to do it. And so you had better be paying attention to that because my grandson just left a very good job as an engineer to take a lesser job because it was far better for his life.
Mhm.
And so this is who we've got that we're bringing into the industry. If you're in the mid 30s or even upper 30s down into the 20s, that's who we're dealing with. The work-life balance is a critical component that has to be considered, not just call volume.
Yeah.
Well, a lot
You
of
know,
them even want to work 4 days a week too, is what you're finding out. They don't want to work 5 days a week.
we have some techs doing 410s. They love it. We have other techs that don't want to do the 410s. But one thing I think you're going to start seeing as incentives go is instead of money, I think moving, hey, we'll give you 4 hours of PTO if you do X, Y, and Z or whatever, moving towards a PTO based incentive versus a cash incentive.
Yep. Yep. You're on to something. I'm hearing that from amongst friends working through it. Of course, and isn't that funny? Sometimes the cash incentive could be worth more than the PTO, but that PTO, just the way their mindset and the way they accept that is fine. So great transition to another challenge here. There's no right answers. It's not going to be easy. Every day is going to be a challenge. So if we try to use this work-life balance, for instance, I think our company could probably achieve what we're going to do this year with 2 less techs. That means in the slow season, guys are going to travel a little farther, and they're not going to have a 32-hour work week. They're going to have a 40 to 40. They're going to have a 40 to 45-hour work week all year long. And in the summer, maybe more, right? I think I can do it with 2 less techs. It's not going to work out because I don't want to lose them. I don't want to burn them out. So the reality is we have to hire more techs. And in 2024, all of a sudden, it's getting really expensive to do that. Vans have gone up 30, 40%, payroll, taxes, another employee, another oven cart, another air sled, another GE diagnostic tool. It's getting expensive to bring people on. Have you guys thought about that? Are you guys navigating that?
Well, insurances are getting out of control for their
Insurance?
premiums right now.
Absolutely. So in 17, 18, that was my theory. Okay, call counts, quality, I'll just bring more people on. And then if in January, February, March, it's really slow, oh man, if we're doing all right, I'll have training parties and I will do I'll just say, hey, take a day off on me, go golfing, but it's really expensive to have a staff standing by to take those calls to provide that same day, next day service. What are you guys thinking about that? What are you guys doing about that? Do you guys see it the same way as I do, that it's maybe too expensive to pull that off?
I think it's difficult to think you can go find more techs. Saying, hey, I'll just hire more techs. I mean, that's getting.
We're on a 2-year run of this. I don't know, Brian, my service manager, if you're able to chime in. We don't have it down to a science yet, but I think I would say that we've been successful with a pipeline of people from scratch, which we've done in the past, but we would also prefer in the past experienced guys. We flip-flopped, we went all over the place. I think we like it. Do you like it, Brian? Because Brian does all the hard work, by the way. So I'm totally living off of his shoulders. What's your take on training people from scratch the last couple of years and filling our gaps and when they become productive for us?
I really think we've only had one failure of the 6 or 7 guys that we've brought in the past 2 years. They're doing great. We start out with the basics, they're helpers, they're riding along, learning with the guys. They're doing vent cleanings, they're doing whole house specials where they're just going in and interacting with the customers. And throughout that whole process, they're learning about appliances, they're learning how to work with customers. And that's more of a challenge than working with the appliance, working with customers, because they're funny people, the customers. So if they got great customer soft skills, I can train the technical aspect. I can't train professionalism in some cases. But training from scratch, it's been our greatest success.
What's the time frame till they're on their own?
Experience. Pardon?
What's the time frame for getting them on their own?
Less than 2 months. It might be one day they're just doing a whole house special, and that takes up the better part of a day, and then they go meet up with a technician. Sometimes there's 2 whole house specials, but I'd say after the first 3 weeks riding with a technician, I feel comfortable sending them out on basic repairs or diagnosis.
What's cool is to see some of these new guys, A-Action Appliance, if you want to check the reviews out. You see the new guys, like James was great, and he seems, he knew what he needed to do, or he was a professional. And it's like, sometimes I say, how the hell is this kid pulling this off already? And so of the 7 or 8 people that we hired, we have become better at pulling the trigger quicker too on the people that don't have the people skills. If they don't have the people skills, that is way too long to train and teach and break habits, and you're just going to have to move on. So we are moving on better and faster. Best case, the best story, Mark, turns out ends in a tragedy. So get your tissues ready. All right. We hired this very good looking young Italian kid, like 20 years old, still lives with his mom, went to college and decided, I don't want to go that route. Very similar to Dean's grandson's story, like change of life process. He goes, I like working with my hands. So he started in like May, and by the end of the year, we got him on the road. So that was in 22. So the full year of 23, with less than a year of experience, the kid brought in $288,000 for us in revenue. I couldn't believe it. And customers loved him. Along the way, we found out that Brian was enabling him. And that was something where it helped Brian be a better service manager, because he was calling him before he'd go to the house. Hey, what do I do here? What do I do there? So one time I go, Brian, did you see Lorenzo's numbers? They were amazing last week. He goes, yeah, those are my numbers. I was walking him through like a puppet. But Brian bravely told him, you go there, you figure it out. And the change and growth in Brian as a service manager, when you dive in, you try something like this, the impact is great. But yeah, 288,000 for a guy with less than a year of experience. That's amazing. But then his brother got him a job at the utility company, which is a big union place, and he left us. So I was in the fetal position right over there for about 12 hours, just crying and weeping, but you can't give up. And in his stay, we've got 2 or 3 young kids that we're really impressed with, and a couple older guys as well. So
Training from the ground up is always the way to go. We
Yeah.
find those being our best techs.
Can I ask a question?
absolutely.
Okay, so my question has to do with routing techniques and or like GPS tracking. So are any of you using like a GPS tracking system that helps do any kind of like optimization for the routing?
Great question. Anybody?
Yep.
Eric, you guys use what do you guys use to track schedule your texts and watch them?
We use Service Desk.
Oh, services.
Yeah, Service Desk. You can auto import your route to Google Maps, so it's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
Yeah, CDA has a route optimization built in.
So McKenna, do you guys have an operating system that you're using right now, or a bunch of different ones?
We have Service Fusion that we're using, but the it has mapping and everything like that, but it doesn't necessarily like optimize the routes in that kind of a way.
We don't use anything to optimize as such, but we do use Google Timeline for tracking, so that then after the fact, or sometimes before the fact, we can look at the map and go, you want to go where? Why don't you stop in Mansfield on your way to Rentham? Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
I'm kind of quiet because it is a pain point for our company. We have 16 technicians, and we use Service Desk, but to be honest with you, we do have a map of our state, and we use crayons and we color zones. And I have call takers, everybody's shaking their head. Don't tell me you all use crayons too, because I was looking for an answer here today. And we have call takers from the Philippines. And so it is really hard to make an efficient schedule. So we have one dispatcher that oversees the whole thing and tries to assist them on where to put the calls. We even have things like in our Teams chat, a whole separate chat that says same day, next day. So if the CSR can't see a spot to get them in for today or tomorrow, they're going to book them in the first available slot that they find, and then notify the dispatcher that, hey, this customer would like sooner. And we also use the cancellation report system. That's or whatever you call it. Yeah, cancellation report system. But it's not great because I'm relying on I'm relying on the Oz behind the curtain to run the whole show. So does anybody have multiple dispatchers, or especially if you have a group, a bigger size group, what do you guys do, Misty? Who's the guru that gets all the calls in the right place and maximizes the schedule for you? Is it more than one person?
We typically have one primary person. He's actually on this call, Pete. He handles all the dispatching and does all the magic with placing the calls where they need to be. He actually triages a lot of tickets too, for parts and for potential ticket errors. But that it's communication from him throughout the day on, this specific tech needs more calls for tomorrow. So we use Google Chats and we try and communicate throughout the day if there's a specific tech or area that needs more work. And everybody tries to pitch in and fill in those spots. It's harder this time of year because we're not as busy, but
Right. So that's what I mean. Pete's got a hard job. In the
Pete does
slow
have a hard
season,
job.
he's got to fill the gaps. He's got to hear the technicians maybe complain about a gap in their schedule, or, that type of thing. And then when the summer comes, he's probably getting complaints from the techs as well that they're being worked too hard. It's a really tough job for one. I am on a mission to figure out a different way to do it. The problem is my mindset's only locked in on that approach. David, you got a few guys, but would you do something differently? Because you're a smart guy. No pressure, Stanza. But how would you do it if you worked at Action? If I gave you my job because I don't want it anymore, what would you do? 16 techs. How do we get the customers off the phone and in the right place in the schedule and make a nice maximized schedule for same day, next day service?
Yeah, I mean, we're constantly reviewing the schedule. I think the big time that we're doing a review is between 2 and 3 in the afternoon, where we'll look at where the techs are in their route and see if an add-on is possible. The kind of what everyone was speaking to earlier, the sooner you can get to a customer, the better. The longer that customer is out on your schedule, the higher the cancellation rate is. Even if that's next day, like you said, Doug, you have the opportunity to lose that customer to somebody that's going to get there same day. So it's always prioritizing. And if we can bring a customer forward from tomorrow, we're calling those customers and trying to get them moved to today. If that slot opens up or if that slot is available. As far as dispatching and the most efficient route, it kind of goes to what you guys were saying earlier. If it's slower, you kind of lose the need for that efficiency in lieu of getting to that customer sooner. And trying to fill the schedule today. I always tell the dispatchers, don't worry about tomorrow. When we're pulling calls from tomorrow, don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow, whether it fills or not is a problem for tomorrow.
Right.
We want to fill today first. And like I said, if that, in that 2 to 3 time frame window, if you're able to find, an additional call or 2 per technician, kind of goes back to what you said, Doug, you're completing more calls in a day and the revenue follows. We don't have an incentive for taking add-ons. It's just kind of an expectation that, any add-ons can come in before 4 o'clock. We won't go over, if we anticipate them going over, 5 o'clock, we won't take an add-on for that technician. And we really try to prioritize, basically keeping that regimented. So the technicians, obviously sometimes they get stuck on a job or something happens and they're working past 5, but we work really hard to keep the guys 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, giving them that kind of that guaranteed work-life balance, that they can have. But it's a tough balance. I mean, all of this is a tough balance. I think for every company, there's no right or wrong answer for what's going to work exactly for your company.
So if you knew right now, David, for the last couple months, and you don't see it changing, that you've got 10, 15 extra calls, you're losing 10, 15 calls a week, 20 calls a week. What would you do? Would you hire more people, or would you ask your team to do more and work past 5, or would you just be okay with losing those customers and those calls?
Well, I think that's where you dive deep and find the pain points. Where and why are you missing those calls? If it's, hey, my team is already maxed out, then you add a person. If the answer is, the team's just not motivated enough to take on those calls, or to, sometimes the office gets beat down by the technicians. Oh, I didn't want that add-on. Oh, I didn't, and the customer service representative folds and says, you know what, I don't want to piss off John today. Let me just push this to tomorrow. So it's really about keeping everyone on the same page, and making sure that everyone is looking to take care of that customer today, not tomorrow.
I
Always
like how you took a deep breath, because it's exhausting, right? You're like,
it
we
is.
just have to do our best, right?
It
It's
is.
tough stuff out there, right?
It is. And sometimes, you have to get involved personally and say, why did we put that call for tomorrow? Why, it's 4 o'clock and John's getting off at 4 o'clock. There's a problem there, especially when you're in your busy times. I have our technicians even stay, either in the office, they can come to the office, or stay in their territory until 4 o'clock. In some cases in the slow season. Now they can call and ask to get released early. But they're on call till 4 o'clock when we're slow, because if that refrigerator call comes in, or that, fill in the blank call comes in, we got to get them today. If we don't get them today, someone else will. Because if I'm slow, everyone else in our area is slow, and they're chomping at the bit for those calls.
So what's
So-
your pay structure? Is it 100% commission?
It is. We guarantee, we have a guaranteed salary, and then
Okay.
anything over that in commission, they get paid. So
So it's a true partnership of investment, where it's slow season, it's a light day. They did 2 calls, 3 calls, it's 12 o'clock. They're hanging out and standing by because they understand that that's their job, but they're not getting paid from 1 and 2 o'clock. And, they may have
Well,
to
the key
go
is-
home and
is
come
to-
back out, right?
the key is to show them they do get paid, because when they do get that add-on call, they're getting paid. When they hurt, I hurt. When I hurt, they hurt.
Right,
It is a
right.
true partnership.
Yeah.
And getting that buy-in, it's about setting expectations. It's so much, and that's what would scare me about giving an incentive for add-ons, is because at that point it's almost like you're begging them to do their job. And I like incentives for going above and beyond. I give incentives for great reviews. I give incentives for a positive attitude. I give incentives for, other things that are not necessarily required to do your job. You don't have to go out and get positive reviews to do your job and fix an appliance. But I do expect you to be on call to go out and fix an appliance, because that's your job.
Got it.
So that's kind of where I land on that.
What's your thoughts, Misty? What were you?
I would like to hear more about your holding your team to these expectations. It's one thing that I think that we struggle with at times. What are you doing to hold them to leaving marketing things behind, taking those add-ons, having that team mentality instead of just themself mentality?
Honestly, we've got a pretty strong team that's really tight. We've got a small team, eight technicians. And we do barbecues, at the house. We'll do, team events. We'll do you make a team atmosphere, and again, like what Doug said, you make it a true partnership with your pay structure, and they, in theory, want to do what's best for your business, because it's also what's best for them. I always kind of leverage with all of my employees 3 things: that if it's right by the customer, it's right by you, the employee, and it's right by the business, you have full power and authority to make that decision. And I give that power to every employee, whether it's a technician in the field that has to give a discount on the spot, because it's the right thing to do, or has to authorize a refund because, again, it's the right thing to do by all 3. They have the authority and the power to do that. I think doing stuff like that and enabling your team to make the right decisions makes them think about the business and what's best for the business, and makes them think about what's good for them and makes them think about what's good for the customer, you know, them hanging out and waiting for an add-on, it's good for all three. It's good for me, it's good for the customer, it's good for the business.
Mhm.
And when we can say those three things line up, then we always say yes. When one of those comes out of the equation, we say no, you know, or we take it a case by case basis. So if it's not good for the technician because he's got to stay late, then we have to make a game time decision to say, hey, we may not want to do this because it doesn't fulfill all three of those. You know, when you do that and you consistently do that, I think, you know, that you've got buy-in from your staff because they see what's good for all three at all times. And I think that's kind of how we keep people motivated is what's best for us is what's best for everybody, you know, and when that's the decision-making tree, you know, and it's very clear to the technicians that, you know, that's kind of the way we do business, then I think you reduce some of those fighting, you know, kind of points where.
You know what, David, you just slipped in a very important word in there. And if you don't do this, what you said, it's not going to work. It's being consistent from the top down. You have to be consistent about your approach, which is if it's a win for all three, it's a go. And if it isn't, then we will manage it and deal with it and make the best decision we can. But you can't switch gears and you have to be consistent about it. That's how, back to Todd's comment too, that it's cultural and that your peers will sometimes hold that employee accountable because everyone knows David Costanza and Appliance King's story. Everyone knows this is how it works here. But if we're not consistent at the top, then it's going to be hard for them to know the story. And Brian Mahowski has been, my service manager, has been coaching me on that. I'm a big people pleaser. Man, oh man, I would rather, you know, full of grace type thing, but am I just messing with these guys' heads? So we need to be more consistent. Are you afraid to lose somebody, Misty? Are you, David, afraid to lose somebody over not doing leave behinds? If they just flat out said to you, I'm not going to do this one particular thing that you're asking of me because it's a waste of my time. What do you do with that if it's important to you guys?
I mean, honestly, you know, do we follow up as much as we should with every technician about every little thing like a leave behind? That's not our strong point. And some would argue that's, you know, that leans on the side of not trying to micromanage. But again, kind of coaching the staff as to what's best for them. When we give them leave behinds to leave behind, we say, listen, you know, your route is not as full as you'd like it to be. Leaving these leave behinds is what fills your route. This is what, you know, the neighbor gets, you know, when something is going wrong with a neighbor, they get that leave behind, you know, given from the customer, or they read off the sticker, the phone number on their sticker to the neighbor so that they can get help. You know, that fills your route, you know, so you put it in terms that what's best for them. That's kind of leadership management 101. What's best for them, show them why it's best for them. You know, went to I'm big into Dale Carnegie and his courses, and when you're leading your team, you give the here's what I'd like to do, and then you always give a call to action at the end. You're adding the benefit for the employee. So I'd like to start scheduling more add-ons, you know, after 2. The benefit to you is going to be you are going to have an increased paycheck. Your commission is going to be greater. And, you know, I'd like to start doing this today. But the big thing is you're explaining the benefit up front to them on why it's good for them.
Yeah. Yep. And if you think you sound like you're a broken record and you're just saying it, you're probably annoying them. I read this in a book recently. If you feel like you're saying it over and over and it's annoying you, they're just finally hearing it for the first time. So you got to keep going with that. Just want to squeeze in 1 minute. Anybody doing Saturday service? Are we done with that? Is that closed and officially out?
Emergencies only.
Emergencies only. And how about evening service? In our recent leadership meeting last week, we entertained and talked about the old school days of like an after 4 because people work. Is anybody trying to achieve that time frame for your customers?
Yeah, we do both.
You do both?
Yeah, so we incentivize our guys to work on Saturdays. They essentially, if they work 2 Saturdays, they earn an additional vacation day. And then we actually had a guy who was a technician for us for 5 or 6 years, decided to go work HVAC. Well, now he wanted a side hustle. So now after he's done with his HVAC company, he comes and works for us, between 4 and 9 every night. Well, no, 3 nights a week. And then he works Saturdays also. So we actually have been lucky enough to do both of those things.
We do Saturdays in the busy season. We typically stop Saturday service when we're slow.
Got it. Any other questions, comments?
Enrique just typed up, Doug, that he has quite a few people that want to work Saturdays.
Do they want to move to Connecticut? Just kidding, Enrique. Just kidding. Next laundry room is David Costanza talking about digital marketing methods, right? Is that right?
Yes.
All right.
June
So
7th. Isn't it?
Looking forward to it, and hope we get as good of an attendance as you did, Doug. And
June
I want
12th.
to thank you for putting this on, Doug. I know these laundry rooms are helpful for the industry, so really appreciate you putting the time and work into it.
well,
And we
well,
also
thanks.
appreciate everyone coming as well, because yes, we couldn't do it without Doug or our host, but we couldn't do it without the collaboration of everyone else as well.
So
we
my
appreciate
2 takeaways is potentially, these are just ideas. One came from Dean, commission a plus bonus for volume. So acknowledging that, going above and beyond, someone who's willing to do more, that can be a great incentive. So I got to try to figure out how that could work into our system. And the other thing I just came from Eric, that idea of, that incentive of a paid day off equaling something like a 2 Saturday thing. So now I get to go home and figure this thing all out. So thank you guys for the ideas, and I hope you guys grab something yourself as well.
Thank you,
always
Doug.
adding to your
Appreciate it.
to-do list. Sorry, Mark, go ahead.
I was just saying thank you, Doug.
Mm.
Appreciate it. What day is David's laundry room?
It is
12th.
the second Wednesday. Yes, the 12th.
Yep. 4 p.m.
Eastern.
David only does 4 p.m. He doesn't wake up early enough for 11
Yep.
a.m.
Yeah,
I was
still haven't
surprised to
gotten through
see
my
your
coffee.
face this morning.
Well, yeah.
Me too.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
Bye.